but I'll be there.
Okay.
But I'll be there.
Okay, welcome everybody to we're on live number 5 of A Course in Miracles, and we haven't moved through a lot of the book, but there's just so much detail that we like to talk about a lot of the little details that are coming up. I believe that we left off, and was it cause and effect? That's what I believe we were there. If not, it was the next one.
Were we still in chapter 3, right?
Okay, we're starting chapter 3. Is that what it is?
No. I said we were still in chapter 3.
Well, we haven't really started chapter 3, I don't think.
Oh, I may just be ahead there.
Yeah, I think we're just finishing the meaning of the last judgment.
And what page was that?
That's page 31. Cause and effect, and 33 is the meaning of the last judgment.
Okay.
Now, I think that's where we were. I was like calculating because I knew we had to do 15 pages.
Yes, thank you. I think I'm just ahead. So I've been reading, so I got a little messed up.
Oh yeah, I know. I read ahead and then I forget where we are too.
Yeah.
Okay, so in chapter 2, the first line, it goes on line 2. So the first paragraph, line 2. I've already indicated that you cannot ask me to release you from fear. And they talk about it talks about here that there's a cause and effect. So if there was an intervening and a release of fear, then he's interrupting your free will. Right?
Yes, that makes sense.
And that would be tampering with the basic law of cause and effect. And how that would be a depreciation of our own thinking.
Yes.
And I love that, because that's like that going back to, you can't tell people what to think, or you can't tell people how to see it. It's like, people have to get there on their own.
That's right. You spend a lot of time trying to push people that way, where it's their journey. If it wasn't, then they'd already know.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah. And then it talks about the need to guard your own thoughts, that we need to watch what we're thinking a little bit more closely. Paragraph 2, line 2, miracle working entails a full realization of the power of thought in order to avoid miscreation. Yeah, that's just watching your thoughts, because we're creating with our thoughts all the time.
Right.
Okay, so paragraph 3, line 3, by choosing the miracle, you have rejected fear, if only temporarily. You have been fearful of everyone and everything. You're afraid of God, of me, of yourself. You have misperceived or miscreated us and believe in what you have made. I
loved these chapters, by the way. Right? They have so much meaning in there. Like,
so much.
Wow, like you were afraid of God, of me and yourself. You've misperceived or miscreated us and believe in what you've made. You would not have done this if you were not afraid of your own thoughts. Like, wow. The fearful must miscreate because they misperceive creation. When you miscreate, I highlighted this, you are in pain. The cause and effect principle now becomes a real expediter, though only temporarily. Actually, cause is a term properly belonging to God, and his effect is his son. I was like, wow.
That's incredible. It just really it just reiterates, like I've really recognized, especially in the last 2 years of my life, the ways that my thoughts will think about the situations that are happening. And then pulling back and being like, okay, wait, what is real here? What,
Right.
how can I perceive it so that everybody like can be seen in the light,
Yes. Yes.
and that's been such a huge shift too, because when I get triggered, it's like, okay, wait a minute, what is this?
Yeah.
Where am I miscreating? That's now I recognize this is what I'm like, where am I miscreating my thoughts around this?
Right. And where does the ego come into play?
Yeah.
When was the ego even created? You know what I mean? Like, so it just brought up so many questions.
Well, and the ego, I feel, is the animal part of the mind,
Oh, I love that. Yes.
right? That's the animal part of the mind. Like you see that, like, and I was thinking of this last night. It caused this like whole roundabout thought. But okay, I had chickens, right?
Yeah.
And we tried to be the best to these chickens, but they still grew up to be terrified of us.
Okay.
Like it didn't matter how much we pet them or talk to them, and people who can make chickens feel safe, those are some special people. 'Cause I couldn't do it. Like they just were
Right.
terrified of me, right? But it showed me too how fragile the animal mind is,
Yes.
and it's programmed for survival.
Right.
Right, and that fear, fight, or flight that triggers in the smallest of situations, and how this perception of we got to keep ourselves safe, we got to and I posted something on this the other day, is I feel like the animal mind is programmed to survive. I don't know if that's the original state that it came in.
Well, I mean, they were created for a food source. So, I mean, they're already going to be in survival mode, right? Because it's a circle of life. Somebody's always going to have to kill someone to survive. And they only have one instinct. And it's funny that you say that, because we've been talking about this the last couple of days, because our cat has become just like, he's decided he can go wherever he wants. So he just does.
Nice.
Three cupboards up, no problem. I can fit behind the TV, going. So here's the thing though. We kept trying to teach him to be human. He's not human. If we wanted a human, we would have gotten a human. We got a cat. So now we gently just get him off the counters and think, you know what? We got a cat. We can't make him human more than he can make us into a cat. It's just what they are.
That's right. Exactly. And and that ego part of their mind, your cat is really great. It sounds like he's very comfortable in his environment. He can just go and be wherever he wants to be. And there's no consequence to that.
Right.
Right. But if there was, then he would probably be in a state of fight or flight.
Yes.
And he would just be doing something, and then all of a sudden you might come in the room and he'd be like, oh my God, and I have to run or, defend myself.
Exactly.
Right. So it's very interesting how we can create experiences of peace for animals, and that they can then start to let out this other part of themselves where they can just unpack and like be safe and stay in this state of peace.
Yes. Now, we also talked about the time when he pooped on my bed the other day, you and me, and that's not just being a cat thing. So what we said was, you're going to have to be more of a human in this case. So you got to pick your battles, Linda, but I think this one, it's a pretty firm line for me.
Hilarious. I don't blame you one little bit.
No.
One
Sorry,
little
that was
bit.
a little
I mean,
off
it
track.
is an animal, right? They just don't have that consciousness.
But I love your analogy of the animal brain is the ego. That makes total sense, because you're just surviving. You do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm. And that's what that's what the animal does, is it wants to survive. It wants to live, right? It's
Right.
programmed to do that. So whatever it has to do, it's going to do, whether that's hurt another animal or whether that's, whatever that is.
That's right. And humans are the only ones that hold that guilt. Like, lions are not walking around feeling guilty for killing that zebra. Just
Because they had to feed their young. Yeah, exactly.
it's life. Like, you watch squirrels in the backyard and they'll attack other squirrels and you think, wow, that's a mean squirrel. That's not a mean squirrel. That's just survival.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's just an instinct. That's right.
Yeah.
Nothing and everything cannot coexist. To believe in, so I'm reading paragraph 5, page 32. Nothing and everything cannot coexist. To believe in one is to deny the other. Fear is really nothing and love is everything. I thought that was really interesting. And they
Yeah.
talk a lot about this in the book, that you can't have the two of them at the same time. If you're believing in one, the other one
Yeah.
is not there. If you're believing in the other one is not there.
Right.
It's either love or fear. Where are you?
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. Okay, so page 33, paragraph 7, jumped a whole bunch.
Mhm.
Line 2, readiness is only the prerequisite for accomplishment. I thought that was really interesting. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of the paragraph. I have already briefly spoken about readiness, but some additional points might be helpful here. Readiness is only the prerequisite for accomplishment. The two should not be confused. As soon as a state of readiness occurs, there is usually some degree of desire to accomplish, but it is by no means necessarily undivided. And I thought that was so interesting. So this is like kind of goes along with that divine timing.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And when we're ready, we just kind of take action. We don't really think about it.
Yeah.
Going down
That's
to
what they're saying. There's potential there. So they'll show you the potential available to you. And it's up to you to take that step.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's art, like it's like the readiness will create a drive to do it,
Yes.
right? Is that kind of what
And then when you see results, then it's a drive to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. So then I thought this was interesting. Confidence cannot develop until mastery has been accomplished. So then we can't get confident in that loop of success until we become a bit of a master in it. Of like, okay, it's ready now, do it. Instead,
Now, is that an ego thing? Do you think?
what do you mean?
See, I kind of see that as your ego talking. Is that when you're saying, like for me, I see that in two ways. You're saying when you're ready, but at the same time, if you're always saying you're never ready, so it's not time to act. So I kind of see it as a flip-flop idea there. I see it as the ego's kind of, spirit is saying this is the time, but the ego stepping in and saying, is it though? Do you know what I mean? So if you're not 100% ready, don't do it. But is that the ego trying to squash?
Well, and that, like, if we're looking for perfection, it's never going to happen.
Right.
Right? Because there's the ego can find a million different reasons why it's not perfect. But spirit, when we get the spirit to do something, like, and this, like, things don't have to look perfect to do it, to take the first step and like say, no, I feel it. I feel like it's time. Whether it's perfect or not, I'm going to do it.
Right. Yes.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that, we can really get bogged down by trying to make everything perfect before we take the step. All right. So next section is called The Meaning of the Last Judgment.
I love this one.
So right from the beginning, one of the ways in which you can correct the magic miracle confusion is to remember that you did not create yourself. You're apt to forget this when you become egocentric. Now, I find that the law of attraction talks a lot about, like, really encourages you to create yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So I thought this was really interesting, kind of like flipping that around.
It definitely is. You're right. It's a different perspective. Yeah.
and just kind of saying it's not you creating it, it's God. And so we just need to allow God to do that.
Yes.
And that's a really like a constant, like I find more and more that I have to continually ask God, like to like come in and take over my will, come in and take over, you know, that I'm acting in the highest regard of what he wants. Like, and I say he, I don't feel like it's a he, it's an energy, but yeah, it's such an interesting continual
It is.
invite.
And
Yeah,
it's really interesting when you start to feel the difference between knowing when God is answering you and when your ego is answering you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It really is something.
It's like a certainty.
It is well, you don't even
Certainty.
question it.
No.
Like the other night I was, and I thought this was really interesting, was I have been asking like, when is the right time to go on and do these readings, right? Do I start doing this again? Do I not? And I feel like there's a pull to do that, right? And so one evening it was just like, I didn't even think twice. I just was like, nope, I'm doing it right now. Went in my office, put on myself a live on a page, and like lots of people were there. I got invited to go on 2 private pages to do readings. I thought, oh, this is really interesting. And that was just like I didn't even think twice about it. I just was like, nope, it's happening right now.
And it's a good thing you didn't think twice, because your ego would have tried to convince you not to do it.
It's so true.
Sometimes that's the way it has to be.
Yeah, exactly. And it is, you just do. All right, so page 34, the top paragraph, line 4, since creative ability rests in the mind, everything you create is necessarily a matter of will. It also follows whatever you alone make is real in your own sight, although not in the mind of God. I thought that was really interesting.
Okay, let me just read that again. Right. Yes. But again, yeah,
So, and
was what you're saying.
yeah, this is what I thought of this a long time ago, but does God really know all the miscreations that are going on here?
Mm.
It kind of insinuates that he doesn't, or that, you know.
But maybe he's not meant to. Because when we, in parts of this, I loved the paragraph 3. I don't know if you had more on that one, but they continue on for this. The last judgment is generally thought of as a procedure undertaken by God. Actually, it will be undertaken by my brothers with my help. It is a final healing rather than a meeting at a punishment. However, much you may think that punishment is deserved. And it's funny because I spoke with someone the other day and we were talking religion, and that's exactly what they said. You know, I was taught heaven, hell. There's no, you're going to get in front of God and this is what's going to happen. You're going to be judged for all of your sins. But when I read this doesn't sound like something God said at all.
No.
Eyes, Linda.
And that's, you know, I really took that as, you know, when we pass away, we go through a life review.
Okay.
Where we ourselves experience the emotions we created in all of the people around us, so that we can know the ways that we've made other people feel throughout our life. To me, that is the judgment.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the judgment. That's exactly what they talk about here. That's done by the other people around us. That's not done by God.
No.
You know, and I feel like that is how we gain more compassion in ourselves for other people and what they're going through, because we've been able to sense, you know, go through this life review where we feel the ways we've made other people feel in physical reality.
Wow. And I mean, it definitely makes sense that if you are an old soul, you would come back with so much compassion and so much empathy because you've done it in your previous lives and you've gotten to that state Whereas perhaps someone who was abusive or someone who was a serial killer, would have to review and review and review and continue until they got there.
Mhm.
Kind of interesting, because I mean, you see people born with it. You're just like, wow, that person, like she just lights up, but they just have been around for a long time and their soul has healed and they're on a good part of their journey. That's what I see. That's my perception of it.
Yeah, I love it. I love that one. I thought that was such a good line too. And then if you go down to the line 5, I have this highlighted. The last judgment might be called a process of right evaluation.
Yes.
It simply means that everyone will finally come to understand what is worthy and what is not.
Right.
And this made me question, because, when we do something and it's misinterpreted and there's an emotional reaction to a misinterpretation,
Yeah,
we must have those awarenesses too.
we must.
Yeah, we must. I can't see how, because that's the basis of what abuse is, right? That's like
Right.
gaslighting, and abuse is like somebody making you feel like everything is your fault when really, so it's just somebody not taking responsibility for their own.
Exactly.
Yeah. And their own miscreation.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's an interesting. Okay. Do you have any? I have one more highlighted on this chapter. Do you have any?
No, I think I'm good on that one.
Yeah. So I got the very last line. So paragraph 5, line 10. When everything you retain is lovable, there is no reason for fear to remain with you. This is your part in the atonement.
Oh, I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like we're only supposed to hold on to the things that feel like love to us.
Yes. This whole chapter for me was amazing. We hold on to all these emotions and this anger and all of it because we feel like we have to.
Yeah.
That's our job. Like, aren't we supposed to hang on to it so that when we get in front of God, we better know what we're going to say and how we're going to fix it? But no, that's not right. We're supposed to accept that we made a mistake.
Yeah.
We're supposed to do better and move on.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Learn. That's
Learn.
thing.
That's what we're here for.
Is what we're here for. All right. So chapter 3, the innocent perception, atonement without sacrifice. And the first one that I have highlighted is paragraph 2, page 6. The best defense, as always, is not to attack another's position, but rather to protect the truth. Now, I find this is very interesting because sometimes it's hard to protect the truth, and sometimes protecting the truth means it's just time for me to walk away because I think that's best for everybody.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, how do you protect the truth? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. That was a big one for me.
But it is unwise to accept any concept if you have to invert a whole frame of reference in order to justify it. So what they're saying is you should not have to justify it if it's the truth. You know what the truth is. And by attacking or continuing, you're changing your truth now because your ego is stepping in.
Right.
And now you're not seeing it the way you did when you were just sticking to the truth and walking away.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes on because I think the next line is too. This procedure is painful in its minor applications and genuinely tragic on a wider scale. Like if we continually bend our truth, it's going to lead to a much more suffering or even more like on a wider scale later on. That's what I pick up from that.
Yes. Yes. And I loved this. Okay. So the one, is it 5? Yes, I love that. 7, in milder forms, a parent says, this hurts me more than it hurts you, and feels exonerated in beating a child. Can you believe our Father really thinks this way? If so, it is so essential that all such thinking be dispelled, and that we must be sure that nothing of this kind remains in your mind. I was not punished because you were bad. The holy benign lesson the atonement teaches is lost if it is tainted with this kind of distortion in any form. I loved that. That might be like one of the best lines in this book.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's the punishment idea,
Yes,
right? You're not doing what I want, so I need to punish you
exactly.
instead of teaching truth,
Yes.
right? Very powerful. Yeah. I really love that too. Okay, page 37, top paragraph, line 4. God does not believe in retribution. His mind does not create that way. He does not hold your evil deeds against you. It is likely that he would hold them against me. Be very sure that you recognize how utterly impossible this assumption is and how entirely it arises from projection.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recently watched the movie, oh my gosh, The Shack.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
I feel like I have, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, where accident happens and
Yes, yes, and he loses his dog. Yes.
that's what this reminds me of. That if you're going to be angry, most likely it's going to be at me. And yes, absolutely. That's the first person we're mad at. How could God do this, right? So that's kind of where, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me 1 second. I just have to let somebody know that I can't speak right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that movie was so powerful
Oh, amazing.
in so many ways. And he was really upset with God, and they
Yeah.
talk so much about the power of forgiveness. And I just love
And
that.
you know what the whole thing about that, I think for me, was that it was so confusing in the sense that everything I thought that wasn't. First of all, God was a woman and she was Black. So I was like, huh? The Holy Spirit, I didn't know what was going on there. And that was perfect because they portrayed it in a way that was meant for us to understand that everything you've seen is not what's real. That we can put on different masks, that we can put on different faces for what you need at that time.
Yeah. There was something else about that movie, how they portrayed that that God couldn't really control the situation. He wasn't in control of the situation, that he didn't
Yes.
really know it was happening. That I remember something along those lines, but then it was up to him to help this, like the man to heal from it and grow and
Yes.
move beyond the pain and the hurt of losing
And show them how to forgive. Like that was oh my goodness. It was so powerful. Yeah,
That was a powerful movie.
it was. And I'll tell you, I was on this, like, it really made you question.
Yeah.
Where would you be in this movie? You would be angry, so angry. Yeah. So I found that it really touched a lot on what we're reading, and it made it a little more make sense for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you go down to line 11. I have made every effort to use words that are almost impossible to distort, but it is always possible to twist the symbols around if you wish. Again, that's ego trying to make it fit its own narrative, right?
Yeah.
Sacrifice is a notion totally known to God. It arises solely from fear, and frightened people can be vicious.
Yes.
And that is important. That's what we were talking about the animal mind, right? Like if you put fear into an animal, forget it. Like there's no getting in. That's why I feel I have a lot of people right now asking about exams. Am I going to do okay? It's like, you know what? You'll do fine as long as you're not scared.
Right.
As soon as you're scared, all the information goes out the window because you can't remember.
Absolutely. You forget everything. Yeah.
It's true. All right. So did I do sacrifice is a notion totally unknown to God, which I
Yes.
think that is like it arises solely from fear and frightened people can be vicious, right? Okay, going down to line 5. Good teachers never terrorize their students. To
Yes.
terrorize is to attack, and this results in rejection of what the teacher offers. The result is learning failure. I thought that was such a powerful line
100%.
because any time that you're pushing a narrative onto somebody instead of allowing them to come to it on their own, they shut down in their mind. I've seen it over and over and over again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more that you can say, like, what do you know about this, and come from it with their own words, it's so much more powerful. So paragraph 5, line 3, the lion and the lamb lying down together symbolize that strength and innocence are not in conflict. Strength and innocence are not in conflict.
Yeah.
We may have, did we talk about that already, or did I just read it 100 times?
I have read that so many times because I'll get lost because I think, did I even read this? I'll read it again. And then a week later, it doesn't look familiar.
I know.
What?
A pure mind knows the truth, and this is strength. That's right.
I did find that a little strange though. I mean, when he talks about the Lamb of God, when he's lying with the lion, why is the lion not eating the lamb? They don't have peace. It's a survival instinct, or is it just a metaphor?
Okay, so this, if we, I think it's just a metaphor,
Okay.
because I mean, it would take a lot of training for the lion to quiet its instinct to lay with the lamb.
Right. And
Not
not
saying
eat
it's
him.
impossible, because lions can be tamed.
Yeah, true.
Mhm,
But
But-
that's going against its instinct
mhm.
and why it's created.
That's right. So true. It really is. A pure mind knows the truth, and this is strength. Okay, innocence is incapable of sacrificing anything. That I really like this, because the innocent mind has everything and strives only to protect its wholeness. It cannot project. It can only honor other minds, because honor is the natural greeting of the truly loved to others who are like them.
Oh, wow. I love that.
Me too. And I
Wow.
find like this is, so I actually have a rune in here, and it's called Innocence, and it talks about the importance of seeing the innocence in people and the situations that are happening to you. We always think, oh, that person's out to get me, or that
Yeah.
this situation, why does the situation always happen to me? It's like, no, there's an innocence here. It's only there to help you, to help you to grow and to learn and move forward, right?
Yes.
And we can see things in such a negative light sometimes.
Which I mean, I think it's part of human nature. I think that life gets in the way, and I think it's about resetting when we know when we've let go get the best of us. That's where we have to take a step back and reevaluate that situation and look at it from all sides. Because that's the thing, it's the heat of the moment, right?
Yep.
That's and we all get there. It's part of being human.
It totally is. And that's just like what Lisa had said, I think a while back, is you have to go through the dark to get to the light.
Yeah.
Right. So, and sometimes that's part of the dark, is just like allowing yourself to just go into that dark place of like, this is happening to me, or this was meant, like this person is out to get me, and then to kind of reatone back to
Right.
that. I don't think anybody was intentionally doing it.
Right. I think we're there to see the lesson, to move forward.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah. If we do paragraph 6 again, line 7, only the attempt to shroud in the darkness have made it inaccessible to those who do not choose to see. Yeah. So only the attempt to stay there, I think,
Yeah.
in that thinking. Innocence is the wisdom because it is unaware of evil, and evil does not exist.
Where's that?
That's line 4 on page 38, paragraph 7, line 4.
Oh, okay, yes, sorry, there we go.
Innocence is the wisdom because it is unaware of evil, and evil does not exist.
Yeah.
And again, I find it so difficult to just let go of seeing the things that just are not in like, I don't want to say in alignment, but the things that just don't work,
Right,
you know? And I'm getting better. I find the more that we keep at this, and it's easier to see the things that are
Mhm.
working, hold those close and let go of the ones that are not, because it's when we have those things that we see the evil,
yes. Yeah,
right?
and it's funny because I've been going through a few things, and anyways, one of the things that's really helped me, because I haven't been able to trust how I'm thinking, is I just close my eyes and ask God to pick. I really do to do. So it's like, I'll just trust, and I'll open up my eyes and I'll look down, and I don't know, I'll see, a pendulum, let's say. Oh, okay, I'll pick up the pendulum, because I don't know. But truthfully, if we relied more on our instincts, because those are sometimes the only clarity that we have to go on.
Yes.
And it's only in our darkest moments that we listen better, because we feel like we've lost hope. If we had hope, then that may not be what we would hear. We would hear the ego tell us, oh, go do something else, or, so I think that that's where we listen better.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so line 7, good can withstand any form of evil as light abolishes forms of darkness. Yeah. Paragraph 8, the understanding of the innocence is truth. That is why their altars are truly radiant.
Yes.
That is such a powerful statement.
Mm.
And it's like, it just goes, those people that you see that you just, when you see them, you just like, just being in their presence lifts you up.
Yes.
And those are the innocence. It's the innocence that I love, that because there's been, people that you're around and you just feel so much lighter when you're around them. And it's the innocence that they have. They don't see the dark. They don't see, and you talk to them and everything is just like, lifted up and feels good.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. That was a good line. And it was very, like, it helped me understand that too.
I get that with little children.
Yeah.
I love their innocence. I love their laughter, because everything's just so new, and how we should see things.
That's right.
How we've forgotten to see things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So the next section is miracles as true perception. So paragraph 1, line 5, it is essential that you realize your thinking will be erratic until a firm commitment to one or the other is made.
No.
I thought that was so good. Going down to line 8, no one therefore is able to deny truth totally, even if he thinks he can.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, no matter what, the truth is always going to be there.
You can't make it up, and it's there. So
That's right. 2, line 5, innocent or true perception means that you never misperceive and always see truly.
yes.
More simply, it means that you never see what does not exist and always see what does.
Right.
And that's a tough one, I find. Like, my mind is a little muddled on that.
Okay.
Well, just because, I do see things that are not true to perception, I guess. It means, innocence and true perception means that you never misperceive and always see truly. So as long as we're in innocence or true perception, we don't misperceive.
Right. Well, a perception.
You never see what does not exist and never see what does. Yeah. As long as you're in innocence and true perception.
Yeah.
You never see what does not exist.
Right. Yes, because you don't see what does not exist and always see what does.
So that means when you're in those, you'll always see the love.
Right.
You'll always see the truth in the love. Okay, that makes sense now.
Yes.
All right, so paragraph 3, line 5. If nothing but the truth exists, right-minded seeing cannot see anything but perfection. We just talked about that. See, I find this is where my mind was like really kind of muddled on these topics. The mind can miscreate only when it believes it is not free. So this is paragraph 4, line 2. The mind can miscreate only when it believes it's not free. An imprisoned mind is not free because it is possessed or held back by itself. It is therefore limited and the will is not free to assert itself.
We're getting in our own way, basically.
Yeah, just give me one sec here so I can turn it off. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, say that again, Kathy.
So to me, what it's saying is that we're getting in our own way.
Yes. Yes.
We have the truth. He's shown it to us, but we sidestep that and we kind of do what we want to do.
Mm-hmm. I was listening to something that Dolores Cannon was saying the other day. So the willpower is in the solar plexus, and then she was talking, like the person she was having a transmission through was talking about the importance. There's like a meditation you can do where you visualize yourself in a pyramid, and the top of the pyramid lines up with the solar plexus.
Okay.
And this here I feel is very much aligned with lining that solar plexus with the will of God. Or do we even have will without God?
Well, we are God, so yes.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? God's always going to be a part of you because that's your spirit, or that's your spirit. You're part of God. So you can't get rid of him. So he's always going to be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, your will is not right, or you've changed, or God is still going to be there. It's just whether or not how far you get away from him or choose not to see.
Right. Or yeah. And that's been a meditation too, is to align my will with God, or just allow God to direct my will. But it's interesting. All right, so paragraph 5, nothing can prevail against a son of God who commands his spirit into the hands of his Father. By doing this, the mind awakens from its sleep and remembers its creator. All sense of separation disappears. The Son of God is part of the Holy Trinity, but the Trinity itself is one. There is no confusion within its levels because they are one mind and one will. This single purpose creates perfection, integration, and establishes the peace of God. Yeah. And that's, again, inviting it in all the time.
Right.
Mm.
And again, saying this can only be, can be perceived only by the truly innocent.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. That innocent perception is so powerful and needed. Because
your hearts are pure, the innocent defend true perception instead of defending themselves against it.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I love that. Understanding the lesson of the atonement. They're without the wish to attack, and therefore they see truly. This is what the Bible means when it says, when he shall appear or be perceived, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is.
Mm. Yeah. Then the paragraph 6, the way to correct distortion is to withdraw your faith in them and invest it only in what is true. You can't make untruth true.
Right? I love that.
And that is such a powerful thing. Like I recognized this recently in the last couple of years of my life, is saying, okay, wait a minute. I need to withdraw everything that I'm feeling towards this and really find what the truth is.
Right.
right? What are the facts of the situation? What do I know for sure? Because
Right.
emotion can like muddle so many different things up.
Yes. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
huge.
it is huge.
Yeah.
It really is. And just, yeah, I remember, a while back, like telling myself, okay, write the facts down. What are the facts of this situation? What is it that, is real and true for sure, 100%. And
That's
then,
an absolute great idea too, because I was just recently, that was one of the things that we talked about is creating a fact journal because we beat ourselves up constantly. So I feel lazy. Fact is, I'm really sick today. I'm not lazy. I'm taking care of myself. The end. And put it on your fridge or put it in a place where, you're going to see it every day. And mark this as a reminder because your ego will get in the way. And again, you wake up bashing yourself, right?
absolutely.
I just thought that was such a great concept. You're right. We just need to create new stories, better stories.
Well, it's stories based in truth.
Yes. And happiness and what we want, not what we don't want.
Exactly. Exactly. And the mind can run away with so many different
Ah,
ideas. And it's like, you know what? Let's just bring it in. What do we
right.
know is real?
Settle down, get
Yeah.
off the train, calm down.
I think it was Lisa Nichols. She's a talk, she's a speaker and she was in the course, not a Course in Miracles. She was in The Secret. She
Okay.
does where you write, you can write in red all the things that your mind is telling you, and then you go back and you write in green or blue the truth.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I found that though that was really powerful for exercise too. Yeah. Truth overcomes all error, and those who live in error and emptiness can never find lasting solace.
Mm.
So true.
Yeah.
This is the healing that the miracle in mind induces. All right, so perception versus knowledge. Paragraph 1, line 5, knowledge is the power because it is certain, and certainty is strength. Perception is temporary. As an attribute of the belief in space and time, it is subject to either fear or love.
Right.
Misperception produces fear, and true perception fosters love, but neither brings certainty because all perception varies.
Right. Yeah. I know. I've got that highlighted. I thought that was a little confusing, but yes and no. Well, no, I get the perception can cause the fear, but how are they both perceptions?
Well, and this is the interesting thing. I think so we have, okay, misperception produces fear and true perception fosters love, of course, but neither brings certainty because all perception varies. Okay, so this goes back to, I think I had talked about this in one of the earlier lives, is there is a state of God inside, and that is love, but then there's the emotion of love,
Okay.
right? And the emotion of love is a perception.
Yes. Yes, it is. Because yes.
Right? Like when we fall in love with somebody and it's all like, woo, that's, that's a perception. That's
Oh, but also, um, any perception is only perception.
mhm,
The truth is the truth.
mhm,
So if you're perceiving it, then it's still a perception.
yeah.
So that's why that's not the truth.
And either way, even love, perceptions that foster love is still a perception.
Exactly.
Mhm,
Interesting.
right? It is interesting. And then we go to paragraph 2, line 2. To recognize means to know again, implying that you
Yes.
knew before. You
Yeah.
can see in many ways because perception involves interpretation, and this means that it is not whole or consistent. The miracle being a way of perceiving is not knowledge. It is the right answer to a question but you do not question when you know.
Right.
Questioning illusion is the first step in undoing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that one.
I did too. I have that whole paragraph highlighted, I think.
Did we want to discuss that any further?
I think it's really just, again, about perception. And if you know what the truth is, then there's no way around it. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So kind of affirming the same thing. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Paragraph 3, line 2. This I thought was really interesting. The closed mind believes the future and the present will be the same. This establishes a seemingly stable state that is usually an attempt to counteract an underlying fear that the future will be worse than the present. This fear inhabits the tendency to question at all.
Mhm. Yeah. Same kind of thing, right? If you're closed-minded and you believe that nothing can change, then it's a perception and you're going to be stuck there.
Yeah.
So- and the future will be worse than the present. I love
Absolutely.
that.
If you go to paragraph 5, line 3, when you love somebody, you have perceived him as he is, and this makes it possible for you to know him. And that is so true, right? When we stop having all of these emotional attachments, these outwardly things and
Mhm.
expectations from other people, it's like all of a sudden you see that person for who they truly are.
Mhm.
And that connection can deepen and allow
Yes.
this exchange that goes beyond, emotional connection, I guess.
If we could take the emotion out of everything, we would probably be, well, I don't know, but much happier.
Well, and this is the interesting thing, because when you read a lot of Dolores Cannon stuff, they talk, like all these other beings talk about how emotion is such a heavy experience.
Yeah.
And that all these beings that are coming here, they don't realize how heavy it is until they're here and they're living it,
Right.
and then they're like, what the heck am I doing?
Take us back. We don't like it here. These humans, they're crazy.
Right?
You have the power.
It's true. And the thing is when we engage in emotions, if we're engaging in high emotions, we're engaging low emotions too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the thing is, we don't realize that we don't need that high emotion, because that love, we would have already had it without the emotion.
This is it.
Emotion is just like you said, it's a creation. So we already possess that love inside of us. We just choose to block it with perceptions. So if we just let that go, let go of the emotion completely, we would be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I've been
Weird.
recognizing more and more, is when I have emotional reactions to something, it's like, okay, where am I looking for validation from the outside world somehow? Where am I looking for something from the outside world to fulfill me that I'm not finding inside of myself?
Wow.
Not saying that you don't need people, because I feel like you need people, because connection and love, like connection and that God love, it happens with people too, right? You get more and more information about yourself and who you are through people too. But when your emotions are firing and there's this, like, that's something I feel that we're looking to the outside world for.
Right, because it's validation. It's like you said, wanting to feel good enough. When truly, when you're in the presence of people that you should be in the presence of, then you won't have that feeling, because you will already feel validated.
Yes, exactly.
So it's finding the right people to be able to have a conversation with, or share those videos, or do whatever it is you're doing. If you are looking for a validation, not that you need it, but you don't want someone shooting it down at the same time.
Yes.
So it's kind of like just keeping that till you can build that confidence yourself, which, I mean, nobody does that in a day. You're starting a new project. You need people who support that and to help you build that confidence yourself. That's kind of how I see it.
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
again going back to holding the people that are close to you, that hold you in love.
Yes,
Like that's holding the love close to you, is the people that support you, the people that love you, the people that want the best for you. And
exactly.
and don't project all this other, and it's not about not projecting, but
No,
it's about knowing who you are and knowing that connection, you know?
having an equal exchange of energy. That's how I see it. I didn't even know what that felt like until I met people who did, but I didn't realize how much my energy was being drained and drained and drained. And once you realize when you're around people who their energy is not draining, that you can have an equal exchange of ideas. There's no fears, there's no perceptions. It's a safe place, I guess. Then your ideas flow and that confidence builds. And I think that's what it's about, empowering each other.
Absolutely. And that is empowering each other to see the truth,
Right. Yeah.
right? Yeah, absolutely. And having the support to do that, right? So like having somebody that you're having a conversation with and you say something to and they say, okay, I hear you. What about
Right.
this? And instead of this like bantering that can happen when
Exactly.
it's draining, is kind of bantering with you and like in pushing their perception instead of saying, what do you think? Or,
Right.
where it's open. I don't know if that's making any sense.
It does make sense. I hope it does.
Yeah,
It does to me.
it does to me too. All right, so page 41, paragraph 7. If you attack error in another, you will hurt yourself. You cannot know your brother when you attack him. Attack is always made upon a stranger. You are making him a stranger by misperceiving him, and so you cannot know him. It is because you have made him a stranger that you are afraid of him.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's exactly what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Kind of letting down your armor and seeing people for its judgment, right? Where we judge everyone.
Mm.
I caught myself doing this the other day. I was watching The Voice, and I was looking at how they were dressed, and I was like, oh, I don't really like the way she's wearing her hair. And it's like, wow, Kathy, like that's why she's here today, so that you can bash her. Don't listen to the music. That means, and it really though, it made me aware that we do it a lot, regardless if that's an actress on TV. If it's the neighbor in their pajamas, or judgment happens whether we know it or not, and we do it on an ongoing basis. So I think it's really trying to catch yourself and understanding that you're doing it and kind of seeing things from a different perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're coming up at the end here. So we're at error and ego, page 41.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the lovely conversation
Oh
today.
my God, you too. It was awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. And I think that we might have done some stuff that we did last week, but that's okay because it created good conversation. So
It did. Yeah.
yeah, awesome. Okay. So thank you, everybody. If you're watching, please subscribe or leave us a message of some ideas that you have. If you want to add to some of the thoughts, we'd love to hear all kinds of perspective. That's how we learn. And we will see you in 2 weeks for another one.